You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
We've got hopefully a great show, our Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday, where I want to show you exactly how to apply the de-stress protocol to any goal you have for yourself. Now, today we're going to use an example of weight loss and body transformation, but I truly believe by following this system that I've been fortunate enough to be able to create over the past decade or so to enable myself to heal, but also to help teach others how to heal, that you can apply this to really anything in your life. So I'm going to take you through the 8-part system, and what I've done is I've created something that works on the entire body, the entire person, both mind and body. And the big thing is that I'm teaching people to heal themselves, because I'm a big believer that with traditional naturopathy, I believe in all integrative forms of natural healing and health. And when you look at the underlying principles, the doctor, the health practitioner, none of them are healing the individual. The individual is healing themselves. And even beyond that, the body is doing it because it knows innately how to lose the weight, get well, or live a long, healthy, strong life. Now, you might say, well, how does it know how to do that? Well, it's been pre-programmed into our cells, into our DNA, into our immune system. And we can see that. You know, and I've spoken about this before through the process that many of us are learning about now, although, of course, in our Western-based mindset, it's being completely twisted, and that's with fasting. Because what fasting is looking to do is create something called autophagy within the body. Now, fasting doesn't create autophagy. Autophagy is already there within us, and that's how I talk about natural healing. It's autophagy or autophagy, however you want to pronounce it. But here's what happens. When we are not putting new food in our body says, okay, we're now in a mode where we need to slow certain processes. If we're in the parasympathetic nervous system, we're going to begin to break down the least useful tissue first, because it will eventually go after all your tissue if you fast for too long. But it will start to break down bacteria, necrotic tissue, cancer-based cells, etc. I honestly believe it's the closest thing we have to the fountain of youth. The problem is, we've, again, taken fasting from what it truly is and always has been since the dawn of time, because we didn't invent it, it's within us. But what traditional, they were called natural hygienists, which were the original naturopaths used to do, was take people out to the forest. They called it forest bathing. And people would live in the forest and just get back to nature. And they would bathe in these springs, and they would do fasting, and then they would ease back into it with fruits and different types of things like that. But I won't get into all of that today. I've spoken about that in my book. But what I want to teach you is that what they were doing was returning the body to a state of health. And now when we talk about fasting, well, it's like, well, what can we do when we're fasted? Like, can we work out at our highest level? How hard can we push our body? Sure, our body's very resilient. It will allow you to do that. But what people are misappropriating is the effects of fasting with repairing the body. They might say, well, when I fast, I have lots of energy. Well, that's correct. And that's because your body is not using now a third of all of that energy to digest all the food that you're putting in your body. But that doesn't mean you're supposed to use it all up. That means you're supposed to give that energy back to your body. You're supposed to allow that energy to be used to help to rebalance the immune system. So if you have an overactive Th2 or overactive Th1 side of the immune system, well, then you allow that to begin to rebalance. Now, it only begins to rebalance when you've gotten rid of the reasons of why you might have the Th2 dominance, the allergies because of mold or food sensitivities or candida overgrowth, etc., and the Th1 because of maybe there's viruses or bacterial overgrowth and leaky gut, etc., etc. Now, again, I'll go into that, and I've spoken about that on previous shows, but what I'm trying to essentially teach and distill is that what a good integrative health practitioner will do is they will put you in position to allow your body to heal. Because true healers don't take the credit for what the client or patient is able to achieve. And honestly, even when I looked at how I was able to heal my body, I was able to heal my body. It took a decade. Now, it shouldn't take anybody a decade. It should take 4 to 6 months maximum. For most people, 12 to 16 weeks. But if you're a really hard case, 4 to 6 months. Now, again, are you completely better? Well, yes, but you're going through cycles. You still get better. Meaning, like, I got better within that 4 to 6 month period after I met my mentor. But I got really better in a year and then 2 years. And, I kept getting better and better. But I was better then, meaning like there was no more symptoms. But I also didn't know how good life could be until I continued to work on the process. Meaning like, I was better, but I would still have like seasonal allergies in the springtime. And then that took a couple of years. I'm like, well, why do I still have seasonal allergies? And then I was like, oh, well, I've been exposed to mold and now I have to get rid of all my mold. And so like, you would do those things, but I was better except for like, a couple things here and there. But I'm only really even now understanding the power of time. So what I'm understanding is that I got better a while ago now. It's been quite some time. But why is it that I'm aging? I'm getting a year older, obviously, every 12 months like all of us do. But I feel better than the year before. And it shouldn't happen. It doesn't make sense, except when you understand that on a daily basis, all I'm trying to do is give my body the good nutrition and the rest and the things in the de-stress protocol that you're going to learn today that allow my body to continue to heal or at least rejuvenate on a daily basis. Now, I'm going to be honest, I travel quite a bit, a few months of the year for work and for all of that, and that's not conducive to a lot of great healing. But what I do is I work on those rhythms and those routines, and I allow myself then to catch up. And so what you're trying to do is never be perfect, because none of us can be perfect. But we can all take our health to the next level. So my goal for everyone is to understand the de-stress protocol. Again, I wrote about it in the Rain Barrel Effect. It's the whole second half of the book. And you can get that anywhere. You can get it from Equilibrium Nutrition on that website, equilibriumnutrition.com, on Amazon. And 100% of all profits are donated to charity. And that's because I need to promote that book as much as I can, because I need to give the information that we've now been able to help people over 250,000 appointments, well over that now. It's probably close to 300,000. But at some point, you just doesn't matter about the numbers. You just stop counting. Is to enable people just to get that information out, to share that information. We sell that at the lowest possible cost so that there isn't a lot of profit, but we do give all that profit to charity. So I talk about it in the book, but what I want to do on a daily basis on the podcast is how can I go a little bit deeper? And today I want to take that de-stress protocol. I want you to understand how you can apply it to any area of your life, but why don't we do it today in terms of body transformation and weight loss? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that are maybe 10 pounds away, 20 pounds away from their goal, but there are also people 50 to 100 pounds away from their goal. And this is going to work for all of those people, and it's the foundation. So I called it today, the 8 proven ways to lose weight permanently. And that's because there's a lot of ways to lose weight in the short term. There's a lot of ways. You can look at shows like The Biggest Loser, and I don't discredit it. I don't discredit anyone, especially when you're bringing awareness to the public about exercise, things like that. But the problem is, if your show is predicated on going extremely low calorie, and the show is predicated on doing 6 hours of exercise a day, how long could you keep up with that? And how many people could do that? Especially if they weren't able to go to a facility and leave their family, leave their job, leave their everyday. Very, very few. So I work in the real world. A lot of people say, well, this is what it says in the research. And I say, that's great. Have you ever seen that play out in the real world? Because there's a huge difference between what you see in the research and what actually works in the real world. And that's because there's no isolation in the real world. In a research study, it's very easy to isolate. It's very easy to isolate in a lab. But what happens is you don't take into account all the other factors that would play into it in the real world. And that's a big problem. So people say, why do you do this when the research says this? And I say, well, I've read the research and I appreciate the research and I'm always trying to implement it into my practice. But if I don't see it play out in the real world, I'm not going to wait for the research to catch up. The research always catches up. A lot of my colleagues are doing great things and we're always talking about what works, what we see working. And I did this in the fitness industry in the early 2000s. And we were doing interval training before anyone ever heard of Tabata and those types of things. And the reason was we saw it work. So it wasn't in the literature yet, but it worked. So why wouldn't we do it? And then all of a sudden, a study came out showing that it worked. And then everyone started doing it. Now, did I invent interval training? Absolutely not. I would never take credit for that. I don't even know if anybody could. It's been around for quite some time, sprinting. But what we saw was physiological change. And again, I typically tell people I'm not the inventor of things. I have the privilege of having a fairly large practice and being able to see thousands of appointments per month and getting to see how that works in the real world, and then hopefully being able to share that with you every day in the Cabral concept. Okay, so let's get started with today's show. I want to give you the 8 ways, and what I'm going to do is give you the de-stress protocol. So again, everything I do in my practice that I see work, I try to give all that information away for free. There's no charge for this. This is, the greatest thing that I think it can happen to anyone is for someone to implement the information that you've seen work in your life and in your practice, and then simply write to you with a success story of how it worked for them and how it may have helped them change their life. And that's what it's all about, because, that's what I was given. I was given information by doctors. Yes, I paid many of them, and health coaches. I paid all of them. But believe it or not, and I know that this is going to sound potentially strange, but when I met with my mentor, she passed that information on to me for free. Now, to this day, I don't know why, and I don't know why she chose me. I don't know any of these things. But if you believe that everything happens for you and it can happen to you for a reason, you don't always know why, you can just start to just trust and have a little bit of faith. And then understanding that if you've been given something and shared something with you, then it's crucial that you pay it forward. And that's simply what I'm trying to do today. Because I was fortunate enough that, many people go much longer than me. I went 10 years. That's a long time. But I also look at it as, well, if I had gotten better in a year, I wouldn't have learned the hundreds of things that don't work, or not to the degree I was looking for. So I look at, to me, as the greatest education in the world. You can't replicate that in school. There's just no way. I went through it. I tried, I had to be over 50 styles of different diets. I tried hundreds, not 100. I tried hundreds of nutritional supplements. I met with well over 50 practitioners, well over 20 specialists. I took all the medication you could take, in my late teens and early 20s. So I went through all of that, and it gave me the greatest education in the entire world. And then I just took it to the next level by, yes, getting my degree, but also studying overseas. That wasn't part of my degree. I studied overseas. Yes, I had to do internship hours, but I chose to go overseas. And so, all of that leads to where I am today. And I just believe that if you've learned anything in your life, it doesn't have to be in the health field, and you've been successful in it, teach others. That's really what it's all about. And I honestly believe that. And my goal, especially with the integrative health practitioner certification, is to teach others how to heal. That's it. So what I'm doing is teaching other people, and then I hope that one day then they'll teach other people as well. That's what it's all about. Okay. Enough, let's get right into the de-stress protocol. But you need to know the context. It's why I do what I do. And so when I'm talking about proven ways to do things, that I have seen them work and that I just want people to implement and do and then teach. Okay, so the first part of the de-stress protocol is the diet part. I'm saying module because that's how I teach. But the diet part is this. It's understanding that when you're looking at diet and why people are not able to lose the weight, there often is a glycemic or blood sugar-based component to it. Now, we're going to go through all the different parts. And if you don't stabilize blood sugar and you're not able to tap into body fat, it's going to be near impossible to lose that body weight. It really is. Now, you can go really low carb, but you have to be able to, at some point, balance the blood sugar so that you're not only tapping into more body fat, because again, and I've done many shows on this, if your blood sugar is high, you're going to be more likely to use the sugar, the glucose that's available in the blood, rather than tapping in your body fat or your adipose tissue, which is called lipolysis. So what I teach right away is just to make sure that your blood sugar is balanced. And again, you can just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts for all the previous shows on this. To find shows on balancing your blood sugar, just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in glucometer. And that's just GLUCOMETER, glucometer. And all of those shows will teach you how to actually take your own blood sugar right at home and see if your fasting glucose is below 95, your blood sugar, and see if your blood sugar 2 hours to 3 hours after a meal is below 95 again. So, I teach those things that you can do it on your own. It costs $20 to buy a glucometer. Everybody can do that. And it's a great way to see if you're already set up. Now, also people ask me, like, how do you not believe in low carb? Like, listen, I always say, listen, I've been doing low carb since the late 90s. Like, I believe in low carb. What I don't believe in is low carb forever or the long term, because I see how it shuts down people's thyroid and it turns on a higher level of sympathetic nervous system dominance or stress in the body. Because your body, you're basically signaling to your body, hey, you're starving, and you're starving all the time because there's no carbs. Humans were meant to live on all the macros, not just two of them or not just one of them with keto and fat, right? And so the truth is that we were meant to eat fat, we were meant to eat protein, and we were meant to eat carbs. Now, the levels of those could change, or the type of food can change within that, but the majority of people, not the majority, all people should be eating predominantly produce, fruits, and vegetables. Now, if you have an issue with eating fruit and vegetables because they cause bloating and gas and immune-based issues, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat them. What it means is that you have something wrong with your gut. There is fermentable-based bacteria or yeast there, and it's causing all sorts of reactions. That doesn't mean the food is bad. That means something is seriously imbalanced in your body. And for you to figure it out, it's honestly not that difficult. You need to either meet with a good functional medicine practitioner or work with us, whoever you want to work with. It honestly doesn't matter to me, but you need to run an organic acids test and a stool test. You can run a food sensitivity test as well, but you want to look at the bacteria and you want to look at the yeast overgrowth. So, we give you the ability to do that right at home. If you're ever interested, you can do that or work with a local practitioner. But if you get bloating, if you get gas, if you feel worse with eating fruit and vegetables, that's a digestive issue, not a overall, fruit and vegetables are bad issue. No, that's not the issue. Because that's what we have the best and most access to. That would be an easier thing. And it's also the only thing really proven to help us live a longer, healthier life is eating foods that are high in antioxidants, which help to squelch free radical damage, which help to kill or prevent cancer. So help to prevent all the top 3 causes of death, right? That's what fruit and vegetables do. Proteins don't do that, and fats don't do that. Do I believe in protein and fat? Of course I do. Absolutely. Especially for body transformation. However, we're not looking at those as the best anti-aging based foods. Okay, so really, really important as well. There's a huge difference. Now, you can pull out research if you want for super low carb and low protein with anti-aging. And I would say, well, yes, you can in a medical sense of how that could help to kill cancer cells because there's no feeding of that. But I would say that that's a misnomer to be able to then say, okay, well, we're going to extrapolate the data from this study and then pull it over to, healthier people that are trying to live a longer life. And you can't do that. That's not appropriate at all. So the one thing we do with nutrition, so that this isn't a huge show on every single one, because I wanted to do this as an overview and then give you a podcast for each one. And so what we do is we have people initially do a lower carb diet, and then we have them transition off of that. And we actually have them eating as many good vegetables predominantly and some fruit as they can. And you're able to figure that out by the amount that you eat and then if you're starting to gain weight. And that can change actually as your body gets healthier and healthier. So I want to teach you how to do that. That's on episode 823. It's how to do a functional medicine detox. It's exactly what we do. We do the 21-day for people looking to lose weight. I have another podcast called How Not to Retox After a Detox. And then another one called How to Transition Off a Low-Carb Diet. All right? So 823 is the one to start with, and we'll link those up in the show notes today as well. So just go to stephencabral.com/1013. 1013 is today's show. All right. Exercise is up next. I love this tip because it's like totally against the grain, and I'm never afraid to go against the grain. And the reason is that I learned a long time ago that if I'm speaking my truth and that I've seen this work over 250,000 people, you can't disagree with what works in the real world. Now, people can say this and that, they don't believe in it, whatever. That's okay as well, because that can be their truth. But I know for sure that this works because all of these things I've seen work, again, in the real world. We're a referral-only practice. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we don't advertise and market. We get people results and then they tell their friends and family and coworkers, etc. So, that's my only goal is to get people results. I also wouldn't feel ethical about providing a service where I couldn't help people. So here's the thing. With exercise, we actually do the least amount possible in the beginning for people looking to lose weight. And here's why. And I know that seems very strange. So we start with walking, we get into some cardio, and of course we want to do some weight training. I believe everyone should be doing some type of strength training or resistance training twice a week, minimum. Okay? 3 times a week is phenomenal. 2 times a week minimum. But why do we say we're just going to do a little less in the beginning, like every other day, like 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'll do for people looking to lose weight? The reason is this. I want to make sure that we're not putting your body in a greater state of fight or flight, or potentially, asking your body to, if you're already like low calorie, that you're now asking your body to preserve even more, of its tissue and lowering your metabolic demands even to a smaller degree. But the truth is this, I look at it as I want to keep exercise in my back pocket. I want to eventually ramp that up to 5 days a week, especially for more of the endomorph or kapha body type, where they should be exercising almost daily because their body is more prone to putting on body weight. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with an endomorph or kapha body type, just simply go back to episode 900. And once a week, I've done a once a week show on Ayurvedic medicine, and you can check those out as well. So here's the thing though. I always look at, I need to keep things in my back pocket for when people are looking to lose weight and they plateau. So I'll do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's what we try to do. We have a functional medicine practice in Boston. Of course, it's 90% virtual because we meet with people all over the world. But we have an in-practice personal training and nutrition center as well. So we have 2 locations in Boston. And that was just called Stephen Cabral Studio. If you're in the Boston area, of course, we'd love to have you. But this is what we do, is we try to do 3 days a week because 3 days a week is phenomenal. But then we give people programs to do outside of it as well. But the most important time to do that is when they start to plateau, like maybe 8 weeks in, 12 weeks in. Okay, let's add a 4th day. And then we say, oh, well, we get another pickup from that. We get another boost from that. And then we keep the weight loss going. And then we say, okay, there's only like 8 pounds left to go. And we don't want to go any lower calorie because we don't want to lower their metabolism, and we also want them to enjoy their food. Let's add 1 more day per week. Now, we're not talking about hour workouts. We're talking like 30-minute workouts that they can do at home or whatever it might be. So they add that, and now they're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like the Saturday might just be an at-home 30-minute workout, and now they've reached their goal. So I like to ramp things up, and I'm a big advocate of that. And that's, of course, counting that you're doing 10,000 steps every day. So I don't think exercise needs to be this thing where you're constantly breaking your body down. If you want to exercise more, then I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine. I think it's great. And I do believe that everyone should be exercising more days than not as we're getting there. But remember, we're talking about a weight loss client that we want to make sure that we continue to help them break through all of those plateaus. All right. Next up is stress or stress reduction. So I did an episode on this, and this was one of our most popular episodes to date. So I do hope you check it out. It's episode 957, and that's the cortisol, blood sugar, inflammation, weight gain connection. So on this show, what I did was I showed how stress actually causes weight gain without you doing anything. Stress literally can raise blood sugar in you without you eating any processed carbs. So that means if you're fasting, if you're on a super low carb diet, if you're working out too hard, I do hope that you listen to that lesson. So what I work on people as well is how can we reduce stress in your life? Stress in the gut, stress with toxins in the body, stress with working out even too hard, or stress with going too low carb for too long, all of those things. And I talk about that on episode 957. So in order to lose weight permanently, we need to be able to get you to rebalance that sympathetic nervous system. So your body's not always in a constant state of fight or flight, that it doesn't have a state of anxiety all the time. Because if that's the case, your body needs to run on glucose. Your blood sugar levels are going to be elevated. So check out that show, episode 957, Stress Reduction. All right, toxins is up next. Toxins, so important. I did an episode way back on this, and it's how to reduce cellulite. But really what I was talking about was toxic water weight. So I'm going to do a whole show on this in the future. I do hope that you tune in for this one in the future. We all take in toxins to a certain degree, but some people are being exposed or were exposed to in the past to a greater toxic load, and it filled up their rain barrel. Now, when that happens, your body says, I need to keep you alive. And if I keep these toxins in your blood, you'll be dead. And that's the truth. So what it does is it will actually take those plastics and whatever else that you might be accumulating from the 77,000 man-made chemicals in the environment. And it does a great job. It actually draws them into your adipose tissue. Your adipose tissue is called your fat cells, your fat stores. So what happens is those fat cells that are always there, they start to expand. They actually begin to hold more water as well. So that's why a lot of people can begin to look more swollen or puffy. It's not even that they have, I wouldn't even say that they have so much body fat, although that is true because their adipose tissue swells. We call it over fat. That's the technical term. But they're really over toxic. Their body is swollen full of toxins. And so I did an episode 221 on that. And of course, one of the things that we do is we begin to do functional medicine detoxes. So that was in the beginning. I spoke about how to do a functional medicine detox. That was episode 823. But we need to have the understanding that as we're also burning body fat, your body's going to release all of the stored toxins from inside of those fat cells. And when that happens, people can feel absolutely terrible. Skin rashes, migraines, Herxheimer-based reactions where they're having flu-like symptoms. Well, that's why you need the nutrients to help your liver to get those toxins out of your body faster because the load can actually be quite high. So really, really important to look at that. And that is why another basically hidden reason is that you can literally be full of toxins that come into your body. I won't call it toxic waste, but toxins that your body is doing to protect you, and it pulls it into your cells. That's why, you have to understand, like really, as I go back to the beginning of the show, the natural hygienist understood that your body is always trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you alive. That's its job. So its job is like, well, if we store these toxins in your fat cells, then it's not exposed to the rest of the body. It's a really smart and easy storage facility. But the problem is, then you become swollen. So really, really important to look at that. All right. I'll do a new podcast coming up soon on this toxic topic. All right, got a couple more to go. The rest part of the de-stress protocol is so important. And I want you to check out, now there are so many things I could go into, like the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's how your body is then in a more rest, relaxed state. It's not in a survival-based state. And then it's able to then say, okay, now we can boost metabolism, we can ask for more calories, we can burn more fat. But a big thing is also sleep. So I did a show in episode 439 on how not getting enough sleep actually affects your blood sugar. They've showed that those people getting less than 7 hours actually have higher blood sugar. So higher fasting glucose in the morning. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because you're less likely to tap into body fat the higher the blood sugar you have. So again, we might say, well, let's just cut out all carbs. It's not the answer for the long term. The answer is getting your body into a state where it can naturally tap into body fat. That's the answer. We don't always want to hack the body, right? We want to allow the body to return to a state of equilibrium. That's what it's all about. It's called dynamic equilibrium. It's how the body is always in a state of flux, but it's continually trying to balance itself out. All right, the next part is emotional-based balance. So important, but so often overlooked. There are reasons why sometimes many people, many of us, turn to food for comfort. And we begin to use food as a coping mechanism. We begin to, or even the lack of food, as a way to deal with previous trauma, whether it's in childhood or experiences that we've had. And I believe that one of the ways in which that we can heal is to begin to understand that everything in our life, that we are the sum of everything in our life. We're the sum of all the actions, all of our thoughts, all the emotions, all the feelings. It's who we are today. But the amazing thing is, and I do hope that you've been tuning into the Mindset and Motivation Mondays, is that you can change. That as an adult, as a child, you didn't have a choice of what you were being programmed into, right? Before the age of 8, it's kind of like all of these programs were being written onto your hard drive, right, onto your computer. But as an adult, it's harder to change, right? Because we're not that theta-based state of theta waves and where we're just taking everything in and we're kind of believing it at face value. And it's being programmed into our subconscious. But as an adult, we can begin to look at those thoughts by becoming more self-aware and deciding, although, again, it takes a little bit of work, but deciding this is now who we choose to be. And through repetition and also emotional-based triggers and responses, and I've talked about these on previous Motivation and Mindset Mondays, we can begin to change the reasons why we might be using food or lack of exercise or self-destructive behaviors that might be causing our weight gain or just stress in general. So I did another podcast called What No One Ever Tells You About Losing Weight that can also show you that some of these things simply aren't your fault. Like you haven't been taught a lot of them before. So that's episode 845. I would love you to check out the Mindset and Motivation Mondays, every Monday on Mondays, every week on Mondays, and also episode 845. It's a very important topic that we do look at. And I explain the 9 toxic emotions in depth in the Rain Barrel Effect. All right, supplements. Supplements can be extremely important in the short term and a smaller amount in the long term. Okay, so in the short term, you need to rebalance whatever you're low on. Like people say all the time, well, I have a low thyroid, I have hypothyroidism. A lot of people don't know how easy it is to rebalance a low thyroid if it's simply a lack of minerals or nutrients that are needed to feed the thyroid. Everything in your body works on specific nutrients, mechanisms, enzymes, proteins, amino acids, etc. It's what we call really the micronutrients of the body and the systems of the body. So I did a podcast called How to Rebalance a Low Thyroid, I think, or Done For You Low Thyroid Program or Protocol. I go through, that's episode 719. So I go through exactly what you need to do to rebalance your thyroid. Now, gaining weight is not always a thyroid-based issue. So really important, and that show does point that out in episode 719. But do understand that this could be a gut-based issue. So your body, you have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you have candida overgrowth, you have leaky gut, whatever it is, and you're not actually absorbing enough nutrients. You're not manufacturing enough B vitamins, and because of that, you feel more stressed. Or because of all the digestive-based inflammation, you're eating foods that you're sensitive to, what happens is you start to feel inflamed. Your body literally starts to swell. So it can be on multiple dimensions of why you're gaining weight. It can't take the weight off. But the truth is there's always an answer, and that you're able to lab test to figure out what those are. And then we use supplements in the beginning to replace the deficiencies, the things that you're deficient in, and while removing the toxins, okay? And then in the long term, you begin to wean off those things that help you to rebalance the body. And then you just continue on with a daily nutritional protocol that is a complement to your diet. It does not replace a healthy diet. I would never say that. But what it does is it complements it. It gives you the nutrients that you need as a fail-safe on a daily basis. We use something called the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol. You're welcome to check that out. It's completely your option, and you don't even have to use the Equilibrium Nutrition brand that I formulate for. You can decide to use your favorite brand. What I recommend is looking at the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol, see what's in it, see why I use it, and then you can decide to see if it's the right fit for you ongoing. Or if you want to just say, okay, well, I see why he's doing this. Let me see if the brand that I like, comes close to it, whatever it might be. And that's always your choice. Okay, the last part, because I know I've already gone over my time limit with you, so is this. It's the success mindset. You have to understand, this is so important, that whatever you're struggling with, that you're not alone. I used to believe, I grew up, for the most part, a small city, and I had never met anybody. Well, I'd never met anybody like me, that's for sure. And that's probably a good thing. But I had never met anybody who had the health issues that I had. So I felt all alone. None of my friends had it. No one in my high school had it. And so I didn't believe that I could actually get better because I had never seen anybody get better from it. And a lot of what I read said that this is basically, for lack of a better term, a death sentence. Like that's just the way it was, that people who had this died at a young age. And so, of course, that led me into a more depressed state, and it led me into anxiety and all sorts of things that I was simply not happy about. So what I did, though, was books were what got me out of this, right? So that's where my love of reading came from. I began to read books, and I began to see how practitioners did certain things to help people. And then I read case studies, and I'm like, oh, well, this person got better, and this person did this. So the same goes for weight loss. The same goes for wellness. Someone, somewhere out there, had exactly what you have right now. That's the truth. There's really nothing that we can think of. Really nothing we can think of. I mean, we're not talking about specific congenital-based issues. Even a lot of those can be helped. That means you're born with something very specific that was a defect with how the heart was developed. Like it's a little bit of a different story. If we're talking about autoimmune based issues or any health issue or any skin rash or anything that you could think of or weight gain, someone's already had this issue and they've overcome it. That to me is an amazing thing. That let me know this. That basically told me this. Listen, someone else had what I had, and I had a bunch of things, right? But they overcame all of those. So I said to myself, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I know for sure I can overcome it. Someone else did it. Their body's built like my body, so I should be able to copy their success. And that's what I did. So now I had to tweak it, of course, for my own body, but I had to start with a blueprint. So to me, the amazing thing is always this, is that no matter what, if you begin to follow proven protocols, they'll be tweaked a little bit for you and your own unique body, but you just have to believe and continue to move forward on a daily basis that you can heal. And if you believe that, because if you believe it, you'll continue to take the actions that you need to. It's only the people that stop trying that don't get well or don't lose the weight. Because the truth is, the first time you try it, and maybe even the 8th time that you try it, you're not successful. Because you need to learn, you need to go through all the stages of what doesn't work for you till you figure out what does work for you. And a lot of people, they don't get that because they're like, well, this worked for my friend, and why didn't it work for me? Well, you might have a different Ayurvedic body type. You might have this, and this. But if you continue to keep working the process, you're going to get it. I look at it as literally a numbers game now. I tell people, listen, we're going to be able to figure this out. We really are. There's only so many things it can be. Let's continue to work the process. If you have that mindset, there's just simply no way you can fail. So hopefully today's de-stress protocol has helped you to look into the proven ways. These are literally proven ways. And I gave you the podcast to go a little bit more in depth, that not only will you lose the weight, but you'll lose it in a way that you'll have learned along the way how not to gain it back. And that's the most important thing. You'll learn about your body, what you need to do to keep your body healthy, safe, and really just charged with vitality. And that's worth so much more than even just a couple pounds. So hopefully today's podcast was helpful. I do appreciate each and every one of your listens. And as always, if this was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.